Hello, welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brock. We are joined, as always, every week, Brian Baldinger, All-City NFL analyst at the Hula Bowl, joining us at a special time today here on a Football Thursday. Baldy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm having a good time down here in Orlando, Florida. Was out of practice all day today with a bunch of kids that are looking to get to the next level, meeting some of them, talking to some longtime coaches, friends of mine, Brian Billick, Mike Smith, a bunch of guys that have been in this business a long time. So it was a good day. Good day if you're a football guy like myself.
You got to love the college football all-star circuit. It really kicks off draft season. You got to love it. We're gearing up for Senior Bowl here in the next couple of weeks. Can't wait for that. And it's a pivotal draft season for Monty Ossenfort and the Arizona Cardinals. And, you know, I want to get into that. Absolutely. But we haven't talked since the Cardinals, regular season finale where they really had Pete Carroll. We didn't know it was his final game, and those Seahawks on the ropes. And we saw a team that kind of came out there with their head held high and a lot of momentum and confidence going into the offseason. Baldy, what did you see from that final game?
Well, I mean, look at the year that James Conner had. It's remarkable. He ran for over 1,000 yards, finished with maybe his best game of the season. They ran the ball really, really well. I think they finished either second or third in the NFL in rush average. It was like really what they became good at. And when they beat Philly and Dallas and some of their big wins this year, they ran the ball really, really well. Pittsburgh, I mean, look at these playoff teams that they beat. So you can point to some building blocks. Michael Wilson, final game, really good game. You can see like, okay, there's going to be a spot for him. And, Buddha, who, did he want to be here? Did he want to be here? I mean, he finished the season probably a little ticked off that he's not a Pro Bowl safety. And he kind of played like that. So I thought they finished strong. The score is the score, but I thought that they competed really, really good.
They take the L to the Seattle Seahawks, and, Jonathan Gannon, 0-6 in the NFC West, very competitive. And Bo and I talk about it consistently, Baldy, is anytime you're thinking about postseason or a winning record, you have to contextualize it within the NFC West. And you've got, in my opinion, 3 guys that coach the other teams that could be en route to the Hall of Fame one day. How significant is the departure of Pete Carroll? Because I see a lot of people saying, oh, they're going to upgrade. Oh, it was time to move on. All I know, Baldy, is this is a guy that's had a winning record 11 to 12 seasons and has whooped up on this franchise. I take that as a win in the offseason for this franchise, the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, I mean, you lose a coach like Pete Carroll. I mean, it's a big void in this whole league. I mean, he was a special coach, won at every level. And I think he can continue to win. I mean, I don't see I talked to Pete a couple times this year, and you never think about age when you talk about Pete. And, he's made changes to his staff. He unloaded a quarterback. They've done all the things you got to do. I think they've hit on some draft picks. Look, 9-8 is 9-8. They took San Francisco to the brink in the playoffs last year. Maybe look, I think he's been there for, 12 years now, whatever it is. He left his mark, but I don't know that you could just say, okay, we'll go get Dan Quinn. We'll go get so-and-so. I mean, I hear all these names. Pete Carroll was a special coach. And so it's more than X's and O's. I mean, it's, you walk in a building and you lose a heartbreaking game, the coach has to pick everybody up. And, Pete knew how to do all of that.
It's a strange time, right? I mean, we grow up 2 decades. We're watching some of these powerhouse coaches, Belichick, his tenure ended today, and Saban retired yesterday, and Carroll the day before, blown out of Seattle, or given a different position. This changing of the guard, like, who do you envision as maybe kind of the next ones to kind of take the baton from those powerhouse coaches?
Well, I mean, Sean McVay's on his way. I think that Kyle Shanahan is always going to be a great coach in this league. I think that, and they just happen to be in your division, but I think they're well coached in Green Bay, very well coached in Green Bay, and I think you'll see that Sunday afternoon when they play Dallas. I think I talk to people in Philadelphia all the time. They miss Shane Steichen. Players miss him. The organization misses him. I mean, I think Shane is doing a good job. I mean, what D'Amico Ryans is doing in Houston, they're just, they're just getting started. But, I think that, I think Vrabel is going to catch on real fast. And I think he's a very good coach. And I think Tennessee made a big mistake, but there's probably a power play going on there in Nashville. So that happens sometimes. But I think he'll land on his feet and continue to be a winning coach in this league.
Baldy, now that we're here in the offseason for the Cardinals, this is a stark contrast to where this team was a year ago. They had uncertainty with Kyler Murray come off the ACL. Fast forward now, he's their quarterback in 2024. They didn't have a GM. They were in the process of trying to find Gannon and Austin Ford. How is it a different mindset now, kicking off an offseason when you have clarity at GM, head coach, and quarterback? Talk about the significance of that when you're trying to compete now in 2024, as opposed to very much a rebuilding year this past year.
Well, you can't win in this league, and you can't win consistently in this league if you don't have that consistency at the top. When you don't have general manager, coach, quarterback in alignment, you're not going to win. You might have a good year, you might have a soft schedule, win 10 games, go to the playoffs, but you're not going to win and compete every year the way the Rams are right now, the way the 49ers are right now, where they're literally competing every single year. Maybe Detroit gets there. A lot of teams are trying to get there, but you have to have that. You have to have that stability at the top of your organization if you're going to be a player in this business, year in, year out. And so it starts there. They've got to, obviously there's steps they have to take, and they have to win a lot more games. But it looks like the foundation has been set between the three people that you talked about.
Baldy, from the performance against Philadelphia in Week 17 and then the near win in the finale against the Seahawks, felt like Jonathan Gannon and crew didn't have, the usual 4-13 feeling after the final whistle blew that normally you're like, hey, put this season to bed, let's move on. They were kind of bummed that the time ran out on the season. A lot to be excited about here. What were your main takeaways from JG's first season at the helm of the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, I mean, just that they finished strong. Philadelphia is still reeling from that loss a couple weeks ago. They took Seattle to the brink last week. I just think there was a lot of optimism, and I think you can identify a lot of players. I think they've got a center. I think they've got a right tackle. I think they have a running back. I mean, the tight end is real, and McBride. And so, you can just go through the organization right now, and you can find staples, to, I think, who the Cardinals are going to be and who their star players are going to be and who you're going to go out and buy jerseys for and all that kind of stuff. That's part of merchandising and business and everything. But I think, this year was about identifying core positions and core players. And sometimes you got to play it all the way to the end to find it. I'm sure maybe midseason you didn't think James Conner was going to be long-term for this organization, but I don't see how there's any way that James Conner isn't going to be back here. And so I think that's a big part of it. And then you can look at other players, is Hollywood Brown going to be a part of this? And, you can look at other positions and go, maybe there's question marks and where we need to build. But I think it's a lot easier to answer some of those questions right now than it was even 6 weeks ago.
Baldy, you look at the landscape of this offseason, this draft is very, at least top heavy with offensive blue chip players, tackles, wide receivers, and the Cardinals are going to dabble in that. But you look at where the gaps on this team are, it's in the front seven, it's at cornerback, right? How do they go into this offseason having to weigh the temptation of splurging in free agency, but also making sure that they team build the right way? Because we saw this year, they did not have enough quality NFL defensive linemen to get through the season. It was the biggest hamper that they faced. And there's going to be a temptation, especially when you consider where the draft favors offense. Like free agency can be fool's gold, but doesn't it feel like this year, especially, they're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off and make some tough choices and maybe sign some guys outside their comfort zone?
Well, yeah, those are, there's a reason why there's free agency before the draft. I think it should be the other way around. but you basically sign free agents based on what you're describing. How strong is the draft on blue chip pass rushers, on blue chip, defensive linemen, who are like, how many of them are there, and what's our chances of getting one to build around? And so if they're not in a position to get those guys, sometimes you have to overspend in free agency, but you have to be extremely cautious. This isn't the designated hitter because, Chris Jones played great in Kansas City. Doesn't mean Chris Jones is going to play great in Arizona if you give him a big bankroll. And I'm not knocking Chris. I'm just bringing his name up because he's going to be a free agent. But you got to be very, very careful. And I think they will be. I don't think they're going to go crazy. And my guess is they're going to go crazy in free agency, that they'll continue to build. But, sometimes you can go second tier free agents and they can do the job for what you're asking them to do. And so you got to identify how you want to build your team. Do you want to build it on the edges? Do you want to build it in the trenches, solely in the trenches? I mean, those are all Monty's, decisions as they start to put this thing together.
And I think Monty's proven so far he can find those guys, right? Kazir White, he gets yelled at for to hold like some really solid guys that were under the radar. I'll get you out on this one. Obviously, you talked to our friends over at CHGO Bears and PHLY Eagles, and Marvin Harrison Jr. declared for the draft today, and he seems to be, if probably the top prospect, definitely the best non-quarterback prospect. When you look at the teams atop this draft, Bears, Commanders, Patriots, and the Patriots, they're hitting the reset button. Is there a realistic chance, in your opinion, that Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at 4 for the Cardinals?
Well, I could see Chicago. If Chicago stays with Justin Fields, I could see them trading down and taking Marvin Harrison. They need him. But I also can see the Bears saying this is a once-in-a-lifetime to go get Caleb Williams, or if they feel like Caleb Williams is a guy for 10 years it's going to be a star in this league, I mean, they may very well move on and take him. So there's a good chance that he could be there at 4 right now. I think so, because I think quarterbacks are always going to get pushed up, and I think they're going to get pushed up in this draft.
Real quick, Baldy, last question for me. Did you see enough from Kyler Murray this year? I know, like, when we talked about it throughout the course of the season, there was some hesitation. The Cardinals clearly wanted to give him every opportunity to succeed. But, like, when you put the tape on, I thought week by week, game by game, he got better and really elevated some guys on this roster, like a Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson toward the tail end, that should give Cardinal fans confidence into 2024.
Yeah, I look, they're hard to find. They're just hard to find, and he's a talented player. And he threw the ball very, very well. And it was a limited. I thought you had to come back from the injury. You have to overcome that. I think he did all of that. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that he's under contract. I believe they should continue to build around Kyler. And look, if it doesn't work out, you just continue to build around that position, period. And you make the team just better. Like if it doesn't work out and you have to go back into the quarterback pool, like a lot of teams end up doing, at least your team is going to be better and better ready for a young quarterback if that's the decision you make, whether it's next year or the year after. Like
Philadelphia, when Carson Wentz and things kind of fell apart there, it was perfectly set up for Jalen Hurts to take the baton. Like, that doesn't mean you have to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback, but give him a couple more years, and who's to say you can't look at another guy eventually?
No, I mean, look, that's just the formula. You just have to keep building. Now, they traded for A.J. Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith. They had Dallas Goedert. They had an elite offensive line. It was just a question of just tweaking certain things. But, they have a certain philosophy in Philadelphia, which has allowed them to compete and, be a perennial playoff team. That's not going well for them right now, but they have the opportunity to change that on Monday night. But, yes, I mean, Jalen's a good example of what you have to do in this business and how you have to do it. I mean, look at San Francisco, look at, striking gold with Puka Nacua in Los Angeles and what that's done for the franchise right now. Kyron Williams, I mean, they hit gold on 2 fifth-round picks. So that rarely happens, but the Rams don't get first-round picks. So they got to be really good in the later rounds.
The All City NFL podcast is gearing you up for Super Wildcard Weekend. Baldy, Anthony Gargano. You guys got previews all up and down your social media page right now. Go check those out now and subscribe to the All City NFL podcast. Baldy, always great to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of the Hula Bowl.
I look forward to it, guys. We got We got the Condor coming on, Max Crosby tomorrow. Talk
right.
about the playoffs. So we're going to get into it with Mad Max and look ahead to this weekend for sure.
Got the best guests in the biz, Baldy and Anthony Gargano. Take care, Baldy. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thanks,
you bet.
Baldy.
Okay, Bo. See you, Johnny.